This is GWEN Talks, where intimate conversations reveal, heal, inspire, and entertain. And now, here's your host, Tess Cacciatore.
Hi, and welcome to GWEN Talks. We are doing a summer special this summer, and it's a four-part series. Last week we did father figures, talking to fathers during Father's Day weekend. Today is June 27th. I can't believe the summer is flying by, and next week is going to be July 4th already. We have a great show coming up for next week, which I'll tell you about in a second. But today I thought it was really important to have the youth have their voices heard. All of us in the world, it's not just in one part of the country, the entire world has gone into this crazy pandemic, sequestered, life at home situation. So I started thinking about the young people in my life, what they must be going through, the stresses they must have. To be going through school as a normal young teenager, and then all of a sudden going into spring break or in the middle of spring break, telling people that they cannot come back to school. How have they been adjusting to life? How have they been adjusting working at home? Sometimes on top of their parents in small quarters, sometimes with other siblings. You know, how do they do that without their friends around, always having to do technology and Zoom to be able to touch the people's hearts that are important in their lives? And how are they dealing with the nowadays stresses and keeping peace inside their mind? So I reached out to just a few of my favorite teens, and I came up with this incredible panel of people. I'm really, really excited to have my guest co-host today is Nya-Jolie Walters. And she is amazing. We've worked together before. I've directed her before in a pilot series. She's a multi-talented singer, songwriter. She's a rap artist. She's a model. She's done all kinds of things. So I'm really excited for her to be our guest co-host today. Then we have Hannah and Quinn Apodaca. They are going to be here talking about their brother-sister, obviously. They're going to be talking about an upcoming teen talk show that they're going to be producing. And I'm really excited to hear about that because it's a whole part of this great platform that's being built through EasyWay TV. Then we have Mr. Jett Laisure. He's the youngest of our panel at 12 years old. I've known Jett for quite a few years, so it's so beautiful to watch him growing up. So he's not quite the teenage years, but he's so wise beyond his years that I feel like, you know, he's 120 in wisdom years. So he's going to be talking about sports and activism. And then we have Natalie Heredia, who is a spoken word artist. She's from Get Lit. I'm really excited and proud for her because she is going to be doing a poem that she just wrote 2 days ago called A New America. And it's all about the things that are going on in the world and how these young people are dealing with the stresses of Black Lives Matters and the protests and the looting. And then my dear, dear Aisha Sambo. I met her this year. I went to Nigeria in the beginning of the year, and Aisha just melted my heart when I met her. She's in her early 20s, and she started being an activist at the age of 12. And then by the age of 15, she gathered these young people together to create this beautiful Youth for Youth. You'll hear about that as well. And she started her first NGO at 16. So I want to welcome you all to this beautiful show that we have together. And Naya, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here, and also I'm excited to be able to co-host this. GWEN Talks is amazing. And yeah, I just hope that we can all make the best of it.
I love it. I loved working with you. You're so talented and gifted. I know that you know Jett because Jett was on the same pilot program with you. So I'm so glad for you two to reconnect. So being that you are always on the go, you've traveled to LA, you live in Pennsylvania, right? So you come to LA all the time. You were just on the Wayne Brady Kids comedy thing, so we can talk a little bit about that. But you come to LA, you travel, you're out performing, you're out doing modeling shows, and all of a sudden, smack, you're sequestered at home. How are you dealing with this?
Well, everything you said is true. I do travel a lot, but it's also that I'm actually, it's not very indifferent for me because I'm used to being home most of the time as well, because I've already been homeschooled for a couple of years now. And so the transition wasn't hard. However, when it comes to arts, I'm not able to actually go out and perform and entertain a group of people or an audience. And it's different in that way, in that aspect, because now we all have to work with technology and that type of thing. But for me, homeschooling is easy. I'm used to it. But I do want to ask some of the other panelists here, like for Jett as an example, like how was it transitioning? How was it to actually be homeschooled now and have that change in your life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, personally, it was very weird, I would say, because we didn't get much notice. You know, we were at school one moment, we went home for the weekend, and then we got an email saying that we weren't going to come back. So it was a very strange transition to come into online schooling. We didn't know what platforms we were going to use. We sort of had to backtrack and refigure out, you know, how we were going to do everything. And also, every teacher teaches differently and they use different tools. So we kind of had to combine everything, and we made it work eventually, though.
Nice, good.
I'd like to add to that. So I am, I agree and definitely relate to everything Jett said, except for us, we went to school on Thursday, and when we got to school Friday morning, they canceled it then and there. So they were like, you know what, call your parents, like, we're not going to have school today. So it was very like, wait, what? Like, we're just not having school. So it was very, very confusing at first. A lot of this thing, like not knowing what platforms to use. And, you know, I'm a very hands-on learner. So for me not to be in the classroom was very difficult. And it kind of put me a step back, especially as a junior. It was my most important year, and it kind of just got cut in half. So it was a little bit crazy at first, but towards the end of it, it's smoothed out. So yeah.
Nice.
It must be quite an adjustment for all of you. Oh no, did we lose Aisha? She is dialing in from Nigeria, and my next question was for her. So it was really about her mom. Her mom has a school that she owns and runs, and I went to visit the school, and it's quite spectacular. It's from kindergarten all the way up through high school. And yesterday she was talking about what it was like to be on the campus and that there's nobody there, and she herself runs an organization, as I mentioned in the introduction, Youth for Youth. So I'm so bummed out because one of the things she said that was hard for her in the sense in being in Nigeria is a lot of times the technology doesn't work. Electricity could go out. I experienced that when I was there. And here we're having a live example of how that happens. And in a moment, electricity can go out and then it comes back. And here she is. Aisha, I was just talking about your beautiful mom and her school. Can you talk a little bit about what you're experiencing in Nigeria? And we just saw live what happens with technology there.
Yes, so it has been a really challenging transition. First of all, I'd like to just say good morning to everyone listening and tuning in. Thank you so much. Yeah, my mom owns a school. She also runs a school. She's been running it for about 18 years now. And the change and transition from not having to have things, recorded online, or even having a recorded system online has been really hard. Nevertheless, Elamine International School has made some changes, quick changes to adapt with the new situation. So right now, a lot of our students still are following the Nigerian curriculum. They get their assignments on time, but we're really looking into making it a more two-way communication. So by using Zoom classes and so on, because it's really been a hard transition in Nigeria just due to a lot of external environmental issues such as lack of electricity and, just unreliable internet. But yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that we want to work on with the schools there, with GWEN Global Nigeria, or GWEN Global Africa is starting up. We get our NGO status in about 30 days. So one of the things that we want to do is really help bring the internet and technology infrastructures into the villages so everyone has a fair chance for education. So I'm really excited to know you and your beautiful mom, and please send her our best and getting back into the swing of the school.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So Nya, you were going to talk to Hannah and Quinn, and we lost Quinn's feed, so I'm sure he's there. There he is.
Okay, he's back. Yes, so like Tess mentioned before, we have our guests here and our panelists here, Hannah and Quinn. They are having their upcoming talk show, and I also wanted to ask them a few questions about that. And my first question about that was, can you give us an overall view of it or an insight on it and what it is about and stuff like that?
Yes, we can. It's basically about like everything, like the hot topics like now that's going on in the world, and basically informing kids that may not like have the proper information at home with their parents, and we're helping them like understand more of like the basics.
Right. My second question is, what type of audience are you trying to reach? Is it just kids, or can it be extended to adults as well, or small children?
Just teens, like mainly teens.
Okay, cool. And my last question is, how can anybody, the viewers at home and the panelists, reach out and find you? What are the platforms that you have available?
Easy Way TV.
All right.
Yeah, and Easy Way TV is a beautiful partner of GWEN as well, and they're going to give us the ability to have Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Roku, eventually Samsung TV, satellite. It's going to beautifully blossom around the world. So I'm really excited about that. I can't wait to see your show. You guys are going to be awesome. Yes.
Thank
Jett,
you.
You're welcome. Jett, I want to talk to you about, because I know you just recently went back into football practice. Talk about the difference between before and during this COVID situation and how you're dealing with football practice now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's also very interesting because all sports, especially professionally, kind of stopped as well, and they all give their different insights and different rules. But what I've noticed is that, with the training facilities that are open, because right now, like football itself, its main practices don't start until another month, but they do have many training facilities that are open that you can go to and train at. And so you kind of have to take as many precautions as you can. You have to communicate. It's still confusing. I feel like the main common theme is that it's uncertainty, right? So you have to communicate a lot more, which I think can be a benefit at the same time when you have the ability to communicate with more people and figure out what you want to do, but it's also more difficult.
Yes, I imagine so. I know the sporting world is now getting up. I miss baseball. I grew up with my father being a baseball coach and my brothers in Little League, and I miss going to the baseball fields and going and watching sports live. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you beautiful athletes are going to be getting back into the swing of things and doing it in a healthy way. And I just have to mention that we had the dog on as the guest, but he couldn't get his camera working, so we apologize for that. So I'm sure. So I want to talk about entrepreneurial spirit, because every one of you on this panel, what I love about you is having that entrepreneurial spirit. So I want Aisha, I brought her on specially. She's not a teen, but she started her own NGO as a teen. So Aisha, please share with us how you started and why you started and what's going on with Youth for Youth.
Okay, so I went to a boarding school here in Nigeria in the north, and it's called Alamin International School. It's a subsidiary of the school that my mother runs, and that school gave me some of the best training, I tell you, in my life, because Alamin was just really a place where you discover yourself, and you're just in a mix of a lot of different people. A lot of people thought that the school was very Muslim focused, because in Nigeria, the northern part is mostly preoccupied by Muslims. But Alamin really had a really good mix of Muslims, Christians, people from all over Nigeria came to Alamin. And I made some of the best friends there, which is, I think, the first lesson and advice that I'd like to give all of you. You know, surrounding yourself with like the right people is key from such a young age. Like, you know, you can tell from people's vibes or people's habits what, you know, isn't good or what you shouldn't be engaging in. So it's really important to stay focused, you know, in school, but also surround yourself by people who will always uplift your spirit, who want to, you know, be go-getters like yourselves. So I was fortunate enough to have two friends who had the same ideology that I did. Now, I went to a private school, and private schools in Nigeria are quite good, not as good as the public schools. And so we always used to wonder, how come we never met students from public schools? So we took it out of our way, I and my partners, Safia and Omolayo, we took it out of our way to sort of mix with students from other schools, and then it just became like this really good exchange. Even though they didn't have a lot of the facilities that we had, they didn't even have some, you know, books that we had in our own school. So it was really nice to have that sort of exchange, and that was kind of like the birth of Youth for Youth. Nigeria is a really populated country, and the majority of the population are young people. And so we started to worry about our future, because the gap between, you know, the vulnerable others and those who, you know, have it better than others was really wide. And so we wanted to sort of bridge that gap between the ideologies of teens that lived in different circumstances. And Youth for Youth is short for Y for Y. And so the organization grew into, you know, forming an actual NGO. So we registered the NGO in 2012. And part of the reason why we did that was because we needed a credible name to look for funding to execute TEDx events, because we decided that we wanted to use conversation to drive, you know, the power of the youth. We wanted the youth to be able to be educated at such a young stage, to take decisions in politics, business, you name it. We wanted the youth to just be involved and to be heard. 2013 and 2018, we had hosted about 3 TEDx events, organized fundraisers every year, and our fundraisers are geared towards a program that we actually developed as a self-funding crowdfunding project. So at Y for Y, we focus on 5 main topics, which is medicine, so medical aid into rural communities. We focus on urban development, that is upgrading slums and you know, local school buildings and so on. We also have a Y Feed project, which has to do with feeding people during Ramadan in the Abuja community. We also have the Y Educate program, which has to do with exchanging skills between people who live in the rural community and people who live in the city. So what we would do is we would get a bunch of our friends back then, a bunch of really young people, and get them into like really rural communities that they didn't even know existed right in their town. And so they would sort of form relationships with other young people in those communities. They would really look out for them, just be in contact. So that was really nice. So the core of what Y for Y does is volunteer work. However, now with the advent of COVID-19, we are actually shifting our entire organization structure to really adapt to the changes that are now happening. I mean, being a founder and an executive at such a young age has really taught me a lot, because I've made so many mistakes, so many failures, and I'm just here to really share my experience about that. And I'm hoping that you can really learn from them. I'm hoping that everyone who's listening as well will ask questions and, you know, be engaging. Yeah, so I hope that sort of sums up what we do at Youth for Youth Tess.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. Yeah, it's such a beautiful job that you're doing, and I'm so excited that we are partnering on the documentary series, which we are going to bring
Oh yeah.
sustainable situations to the schools there and to your projects. We're going to be rebuilding and renovating an orphanage there, a children's home right there in Abuja. So I'm really excited to share that information with our viewers and our community very soon. Do any of the other panels have a question for Aisha about how she started or anything else about her organization? I know there's so many questions that your mind must be spinning, because to start something so young must be pretty daunting. One of the things I attracted what Aisha said was about the energy we have around each other. It's really important now to know that the people that we have in our lives are giving us positive energy, that the people that when we leave them, that we're leaving them better than what they were before, and that we feel good. So if you're around people that when you leave them, you have kind of an upset stomach, or you don't quite know why you feel negative, it's really important to observe that and be really consciously aware of that, because it's important for us to be able to be around healthy people. There's a lot of toxic energy right now. So I just encourage everyone that could be in that situation, that you're really aware of what you're bringing to people's lives and what you're receiving from them, and that it's positive and it's supportive. And there's so many times where people, they fall into the lines of bullying. And we've talked a lot about bullying throughout the years with Gwen. It's something that's a very, very serious topic.
Yeah.
Something that, we're going to open this up and talk about it. But I also want to point out something that is really relevant for Gwen, is that a lot of times if you're being bullied at school, some of the things that we might be able to look at is, even as hard as it is, because we've all been bullied in one way or another, is to be compassionate, because most of the time, I would say a high percentage of the time, the bullies are being abused at home. So, they don't know where else to take it out. So there's that cycle of abuse that we want to be able to figure out how to stop as a community. How do we reveal our stories so that we can heal from them? So I know we have a lot to talk about in the bullying, but I want to just have Nya share with us her story, because, I know you had a story and you're such a thriver and survivor. So I'm really just blessed that you're going to share this story with us today.
Yes, like you said, bullying is and can be something that happens at home. It can be something that happens at work, in any environment. And for me, bullying is something that happened cyberly and something that actually I felt physically. So for me, my insight on bullying is that I was a victim, and it didn't deter my character, but it made me think of others cautiously. And now, instead of letting people close to me, I actually have a wall. And so for me, what happened was I had acquaintances with somebody, and they didn't like me. They weren't very fond of me. And because of that, they spread rumors, and they went online, and they, started all this drama and stuff. And I wasn't aware of it because I wasn't exactly around their friend group. And so the reason I'm talking about this is because it's important for people and children, and for people to know that they're not alone when they come across bullying. And there are ways to handle and solve bullying, and there's always authority, a higher authority over it that can diffuse the problem. And it's important that if you are bullied at home, that you speak to a trusted adult or someone that you trust closely, and that you actually communicate, and that way that the scenario can get dissolved. Because it's a lot of things that are going on right now, and because everybody is quarantined and at home, bullying may not be in person anymore. It may be online contact, and people can still try to trigger and target, the youth right now. And so it's important that you talk to a trusted adult about the situation and allow it to be diffused.
Yeah, could you speak more, like what happened to you? Can you give an example of how that cyberbullying affected you? What happened? Were they posting things about you? Because you said that they were making lies behind your back, which is horrible, because you're trusting of your friends or even your acquaintances that they would have your back, so to speak. So can you speak a little bit more on what that was like?
Yeah, so with that scenario, I was probably in elementary school. So this happened when I was very young. I was probably 9 or 8. I'm 15 now, so I'm much mature and I know how to handle the situation. But at the time, I didn't know how to communicate. So I had someone that I knew, not very close, but someone that, like I said, I was acquainted with, and they didn't like me. So with that alone, there could be a reason, there couldn't be a reason, but they just simply didn't like me. And they wanted to kind of ruin my reputation. They wanted to, that was their goal. That was their end game. Their goal was to try to turn me into the person I wasn't. They didn't want to see me exactly excel in school or build as a great person. And so their goal was to try to make me the opposite of bright and having a happy soul. And because of that, they went online, they reached out to my friends and said lies, the rumors, and I had to actually reach out to my mother and I had to tell her, hey, this is happening. And then when she did, because that was my outlet, I didn't know anyone else to talk to, but because I trusted my mother, she actually was able to contact the school and have it resolved. And the person ended up, we're not friends now, but we ended up coming at a meeting and kind of just concluding everything. And I understood that she had envied me for other reasons, and her home and her environment at home wasn't exactly the safest. And she saw that mine was very stable, and it was kind of that relation that was going on. She was very envious towards me because of what I had and what she thought she lost when she could have gained a friendship. And that's what one of my mottos is, actually, instead of being my enemy, why don't you become my friend? Because we can build each other up in life. We can actually, just become great people. And that's an important message in general for the youth, that we need to use our voices together to put out the evil in the world, but create a brighter future. So, yeah.
I love that. It's so wise of you to have that and to have the relationship with your mother. So I hope everyone listening has someone that they can go to. If it's not a parent, because a lot of times the parents are ones that are abusing. Maybe it's a grandparent, auntie, a school teacher, a counselor. It's really important. And you've inspired me so much that I want to do a series of public service announcements. So I'm going to have each of you participate with this. But Nya, we're going to talk after this show and get some public service announcements out there for other teens to be able to know. And elementary school. Lizzie Sider's one of our GWEN gals. I always like to call the GWEN gals. And she's been a member of GWEN since our founding in 2012. And when she was, I think, 7 or 8, exactly your same age that you had bullying, she had a lot of bullying, and she's a singer-songwriter as well. And we've premiered her song Butterfly a lot, because Butterfly was her transformation song about how she got through the bullying process. So does anybody else on the panel have a question for Nya-Jolie about her bullying, or maybe sharing an experience of what they think school bullying or cyberbullying or anything of bullying? Do you have any questions or thoughts you'd like to share?
I just have a quick comment. I think, first of all, I'm sorry that you had to deal with that at such a young age. I went through bullying when I was in 6th grade, but it was verbally, so I could only imagine. It hurt so much to, have a group of girls saying mean things to me, to my face. So I could only imagine what it felt like to have someone do that behind a screen, and maybe, not knowing who it was at first, or just the feeling of really that's how you're gonna do that, So I'm very sorry that you went through that, but I definitely commend you. You seem like a very mature young lady, and just that motto of yours that why be my enemy when you can be my friend, that's going to carry you such a long way. And the more you go into high school, the more you just have platforms to be able to speak. That I think is amazing, because so many people benefit from hearing that. I haven't been through a bullying situation since I was in the 6th grade. I'm going to be a senior now, but it's such a great reminder, so I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else have a question or a comment about school bullying and the importance of being able to be kind to one another and knowing that there's compassion that's involved in that process. Anybody
You
else?
know, even at 27 years old, I can still remember being bullied in boarding school. And it's just so interesting to, know how many young people go through it at a particular age. And I just want to say to all of you here that you are, like, just being on Gwen Talks right now means that you're at the right place in your, thought process and who you want to be in life. And yeah, you just need to keep on going. It's a huge problem, bullying now, and even online, even in Nigeria, we still get cases of bullying amongst peers. And I can only hope that through platforms like this, we continue to spread positive message and, just no to bullying in all of its forms.
Absolutely, yeah. I noticed that there's even adults that get bullied. We don't really call it bullying because it sounds like such a young word, but we just have to remember to be kind and to embrace one another and really be conscious in our communities and in our families. If you see someone that has a repetitive depression, if you see someone, especially there's a lot of people that have to take medications for whatever reason, and sometimes there's side effects to those medications. So we really have to be consciously aware not only of our own being, but I really want to see how we can build a community, a Gwen family, that we're watching out for one another. If you see somebody in signs of your schoolmates, obviously we're not in school together right now anymore, but when you get back to school or even on cyber spaces and platforms, social media platforms, to really watch out to see who might be crying out for help, who might be saying things about suicide or dark threats or having an obsession with death. There's a lot of serious topics that we're facing right now. And I commend all the youth that you're holding it together so beautifully. On top of COVID and being sequestered in your home and being taken away from your classmates and your families, it breaks my heart to see that there's elderly people in your families that might be passing and you can't be with them. You can't even go to the funerals. You can't visit them in the hospitals. You have to drive by and wave and honk to wish them a happy birthday. I can't wait for us to get back to whatever will be the normal life. But what's happening right now on top of that is a very important topic that is serious for our world. And I want to find out from you teens, how are you dealing with Black Lives Matter? How are you dealing with protests and looting? I know that we have it all in our own backyards and it's all over the world. So what I'm really so blessed to have Natalie come to the table today and to be able to share her poem that she wrote just 2 days ago. And she's going to premiere it here, so I'm so proud of her. She's from Larchmont High School. I found her through Get Lit, which is a great organization. Look them up online because we're going to be partnering with them on a program called Composium. It's just a strange hybrid of a word that I put together because I just want to have this symposium of composing of words that are magically strung together in poetry, spoken word, rap, music, whatever, and be able to offer a platform that will eventually turn into another talk show, TV show, entertainment show. We're behind the scenes working on that, but I want Natalie to share her new poem, as I said, freshly written 2 days ago, called The New America.
Thank you. Last night at 11:45, the fire alarm went off in my apartment building. My first thought was, please don't tell me the store downstairs is being looted. In the past couple of weeks, I have heard my friends weep over the fear of being the next victim of police brutality. My Instagram feed is a black sea of Black Lives Matter posts, the names of innocent souls flowing down river. Stories of people drowning have become our new mainstream. I turn on the news and see my cousin in front of the mayor's house, protecting it. I hope that he remembers to protect people instead of corrupted institutions. That same night, my cousin couldn't come home to his wife and 3 children because he was busy taking fingerprints of so-called looters and rioters. And I wonder how many innocent hands he has held only to let go of. I've learned not all police are like my family. My mother has had multiple conversations with my brother and I regarding what to do if we are ever stopped by the police. This has been in the front mind. This has been in the front of my mind for the past 3 weeks, but how long has this been hidden? When will we be able to stop social distancing ourselves from people with different skin tones? As 4th of July approaches, I feel a new revolution coming along. A revolution of young people standing up to the oppressors. The beginning of a new America. An understanding and compassionate America. An America of peace and genuine equality for all. An America where my best friend's mom doesn't have to worry about her son's safety. I want a safe to be Black America, safe to be brown America, safe to be queer America. I want a safe to be alive America. Thank you.
That was really good.
Wow.
Wow, that was really good.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. It was so
Thank
beautiful
you.
to read that on the page. We can have
Good.
those words.
Very impressive.
Yeah. Tell anybody want to comment and ask her whatever. I'm so proud of you.
That's so inspiring.
When you were going to say something, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say, what was going through your mind for, writing this poem? Like, how were you
Can
going
you
on?
repeat that, Quinn? Sorry, it just got a little garbly.
I was asking, when you were writing the poem, what was going through your mind? What was happening during that time for you to think of the words that you're rhyming?
Honestly, when I was writing the poem, it was basically just the experience that things that I've witnessed, things that I've seen going on. I do live on top of a pet shop now, so it was mainly just like, like that fear of like, oh, what if something happens? Like I live on top of a pet shop, like it could be, like destroyed or something can happen to it, and also just kind of going through my own conflict, like personally with like, well, I have family members that are a part of the police department, but at the same time, I also have my own views and I have my own, just thoughts, I guess, and things that I believe are not okay. And I don't agree with anything that's going on in the world right now. And, I stand by protesters and just all that. So just really kind of formulating that into words. And honestly, I it just kind of flowed out. I can't really say a specific thing that kind of just happened. So yeah.
It's great.
Thank you.
Hannah, Jett, do you have anything that you want to say? Any comments? It's so beautiful, Natalie. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Like, comments about what she said, or comments about the topic in general?
Anything you want to say. It's you speak out, so you get to decide what you want to say.
Well, if we're talking,
Go ahead.
but if we're talking about the Black Lives Matter, I would like to say I just think it's sad, like what happened to everybody like that died or to George, but I just don't think it's okay that that they're using his death to like loot and riot and burn stuff down and steal because it silences like the peaceful protesters, and I just think it's not fair.
Absolutely. Jett or Quinn, do you have anything you want to comment? Or Nya-Jolie? Yes, Jett?
Yeah, sure. I wanted to say first, I think it's important that people like you are using your voice to make things that people can understand and hear, to share your point of view as a teen. in America right now, and in California, Los Angeles specifically. Again, it's a very populated area, and you never know what can happen. And so I think it's important that that was amazing actually. So I don't know that how long that took you to make, but yeah, that was amazing. So good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Natalie, how long did it take you to write?
It took me 30 minutes.
Sometimes when those things are channeled in, they come fast and furious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jett, have you noticed the looting and protesting in your area?
Yeah, I've also noticed that, just looking on social media in general, when I watch, I see that, there are many posts and many controversial things that people are saying, but also in those comment sections, there are so many people that have their own voices that are sharing their own experiences that are going to these protests from all over the world. So you can kind of look and see what they have to say. And so it's interesting when somebody says, like I was at a peaceful protest and then different people came and they were the ones that were looting, rioting. And so, it's really, I feel personally like the media is stretching out the rioting more than there is peaceful protest. I think that there's so much protesting going on in a good way, and that there's only that select few that actually are, doing harm. And I think that if the media would shed more light on the peaceful protests and that other side of things, it would be a lot more healthy. And if they helped other people go out and, stand with other human beings and help share everybody's voice peacefully, like there are so many people doing right now. I just feel like the peaceful protests are kind of being sheltered from the media's kind of show on things that it's all looting or rioting, which I don't feel like it is,
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else experience the protests up close and personal? I know we had one in my neighborhood, and it was just very peaceful, and people just standing around with signs, and then there's signs on fences along my morning and evening walks that I get to see. And it's really sad to see that there are looters that are ruining the chances for people to have their voices heard, and all of that. Anybody else want to comment on that? And then in a few minutes, we're going to be opening up to any of the questions as well that are coming from the balcony of attendees.
I was just going to add, Jett, you are such a wise young man. I mean, my gosh, like for you to even have the capacity to think about it that way, I'm really proud of you. Because to be honest, living in Nigeria, we've consumed a lot of American and British television, which has an influence on our media as well and how we report things. So there has been protest here in Nigeria at the U.S. Embassy. Actually, there was a small protest there when George Floyd died. And, people are taking precautions when they go out for protests. Everyone's wearing their masks. The police are alerted, so there's no confusion or riot. So it's really actually been peaceful, I would say. And the media does propagate fear into our hearts. I mean, even with COVID-19, if you look at the numbers here in Nigeria, I mean, we're not as, the numbers are growing, it is spreading, but people are not, the rate of people that should have died by now, if you compare it to European countries, I mean, there's definitely something fishy going on, and I'm just glad that young people are seeing it. They're seeing the role the media plays in actually propagating some of these agendas, and everyone's just being like very critical thinkers, which is very refreshing to see amongst everyone here. Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
when I did the introduction to Jett, I said he's the youngest one on the panel at 12 years old, but he has the wisdom of a 120-year-old sage Buddha boy. All of you are so amazing. One time when we were screening Girl Rising many years ago, it was back in 2013, and we had like 400 people in the audience, and something just came to me because all these adults were saying, oh, the next generation, they're the next generation. And I was like, no, they're the now generation. You all are the now generation.
Mhm.
Now you get to stand up, have your voices heard. It's like platform of GWEN that we're going to be providing these kind of programmings. It's Quinn and Hannah's show on Teen Talks. It's Nya-Jolie who's sharing her beautiful music and all this stuff. She's going to be on the Life Changes show on Monday night, so tune in for that too. And that's the lifechangeshow.com. Jett's father, Mark Laisure, is a dear friend of mine, as is Filippo Voltaggio and Dorothy Lee Donahue. And they have this beautiful show every Monday night. I just have to do a quick plug for them. And Jett's father, Mark, is one of the co-hosts for Life Changes. And then the other thing I want to talk about is the importance of how we decipher and determine and discern from all the things that are being thrown at us, and how we stay away from the fear. And platforms like the Easy Way and the things that we're going to be doing together is going to be really important, because I know the mission and the heart behind the founders of this organization, which is, Denise and Eric are on here, and it's all in the family, because Hannah and Quinn's father, Roman, is part of this whole big deal of really speaking from a place of heart and of wisdom and of purity and of conviction, to know that we are here together on this planet to do some really rockin' good things. And we can't let fear take us over, because to me, the opposite of fear is love. And so we can concentrate on love. Whenever we feel afraid, if we just bring in the essence of love into our hearts and let it spread wide, I believe it will keep us a lot more peaceful, and it will subside a lot of the anxiety that's happening. Last week we were talking to the father figures, and it was beautiful to see these grown men that are fathers that showed their vulnerability and said that they have anxiety, and we're all human, so we have to be kind to one another. Next week on 4th of July, we're going to be doing a show called Freedom of Mental Slavery. So we're going to be talking to a mother that has 2 teenage boys, because we don't have that on this show, but we have to talk about it. So Nya-Jolie, can you talk about that a little bit, what it's like to be a beautiful blended family, and anything that's going on with you within Black Lives Matter?
Well, recently I've actually showed my support to the cause by joining fashion shows I represent, the BLM brand, and overall the message. And for me, as an African-American child and teen, I think it's important that I do take the opportunity and advantage that I have a voice and spread it out to also support the cause. And so far I've joined in trends, and I tried to share love and the message. And me and my family actually, if I'm not mistaken, next week we're actually supposed to join in a peaceful protest rather than the riots and all the stuff that takes advantage of, the whole death and all the bad stuff and negativity. But yeah, that's what it's like for me right now. But yeah, we're just keeping it smooth and peaceful.
So I know we have some questions over here. Aisha, you're going to run this division.
Yes, there's a question from Daniel. So Daniel is asking, what are the dreams of each person on the panel now in this new world? Okay, so who wants to go first? Shall we start with Naya?
Well, that's an easy question for me. As cliche as it sounds, whatever I do, I just want to be happy. So if I can live in a world where I can, because my goal job is to actually be an anesthesiologist. If I can live in a world where I can have that and also continue to entertain people, I would love that. So that's pretty much where I want to go down the line.
I love that you want to be an anesthesiologist, because when you're going into surgery, you can sing them to sleep with
Perfect.
your voice.
Go on, Jett.
Yeah. Well, I guess I know that one of my dreams is definitely that when we talk to the next couple of generations, when we tell them about what it was like now, if we did, they wouldn't have to worry about any of that. And that wouldn't even be a question or a thing that they would have had to bring up in their lifetime at all. You know, that's kind of a dream for me.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. How about Quinn and
Okay.
Roman? Yes.
One of my dreams is to one day, hopefully, I can give back to people that need and that might be homeless or anything like that that would need stuff to for their health and safety, and for everyone just to stop like going against each other and just be peaceful with each other, make everything like equal.
I love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I totally agree with Quinn. Like, I would love to like be by his side, like when we do that together, like help the community and help like homeless people, like just like yeah, help everybody get to where they are, get to where they want to be.
So I hear a common denominator between the brothers and sisters, and I know you have such a wonderful, loving, giving family, and you have two younger siblings that are 4 and 6. So I hear there might be a little nonprofit organization maybe in your near future, which I'm happy to help you navigate through that, because the homeless situation is really important. I know you all live in the Vegas area. There's a lot of homeless people there. We live in Los Angeles, the epicenter. We have 50,000 people on the streets and tents in the Skid Row area, and that's just one district. So homelessness is a very important issue to tackle. So if there's anything you all need from me to help you in any way, that would be great. Anybody else, or do you want to go to the next
I
one?
can go.
Yes, please.
Yes, Natalie.
So my dream is to be a licensed clinical social worker, specifically in a hospital, in the pediatrics department. I have a very big heart for social justice, which is why, just the opportunity for even to be a part of this was such like oh yes, like I'd love to do this. So I'm very big on, social justice, and especially bringing it to those who can't speak up for themselves. And just being a social worker, I know that that's something that I'll be able to do. And having my license, I'll even be able to be a family therapist on the side. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
That
amazing.
sounds good.
That's great. And how about you, Tess? We would like to hear from you as well.
Oh, well, okay. I love the tables turned on me. I would say my dream is right here, right now, and being in the present moment, being surrounded by all you beautiful young people, because I feel like our world is going to be saved because of you. And I'm here to support any way I can, because that's my dream of GWEN, is to transform lives with the power of storytelling. Not only is the mission of GWEN, but I'm so integrated with the mission because it came from me as the founder. That I really just see the world as a beautiful place that we can all get together. We're all on this big planet together, and you are my future, and you're my now, and I'm so blessed to be. You are my dream answered right now.
Fantastic, fantastic. And for me, my dream is to really see Africa, have the opportunity to compete fairly in international markets, to see our stories being told by Africans. I think I'm really around Africa, but not just because I'm from Africa, but because I truly believe Africans have this sort of connection with not just one person, but the world. If you look at our history, it's so rich, it's so diverse, and I just wish Africa could spread more of all of that goodness. And I'm just going to go to the next question from Mark. And Mark says, what do each of you do to stay happy and positive if the media or others are trying to bring you down? That's a good question. Does anyone want to answer that? We'll have one. Yeah, go ahead, Naya.
Okay. To dive into that one, like I said, I do rap and do a lot of like entertaining stuff in the industry. And so I know hate or negativity, it comes with the job. You just can't separate it and keep it off to the side. But just stay happy. I just do what makes me happy. So I continue to do what I like to do. I respond to my thoughts in my mind, and whatever I feel I'm comfortable with, I just continue to do with that. And yeah, I just put away with the hate.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay. And there's a question specifically for Quinn. I hear you helped take otherwise would have been what? Turn them into service. I'm not so sure about this question. If you could just type it again, it's from Denise. There. He says something about turning dogs into service and therapy animals.
Oh, Quinn, so you and your father are with the service animals. I think Denise
Yeah.
has a question for you.
Yeah, so my dad takes in pit bulls, mostly pit bulls, because they usually get put down, or people think they're like really bad dogs, and we bring in pit bulls that are going to be put down and foster them in and give them to good homes.
That's awesome. It's like a sanctuary.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did too. We have a pit bull right now, and she was gonna get put down, but we rescued her right before, like she did, and now she's a great dog. She's always been protecting us since day one, and she's
Love that.
Oh. Okay. There's one more question. Yolana would like to know more about your show, Quinn and Hannah. And what are your plans for them for the future? So if you want to just talk about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, the show is like in development right now, but we're getting up to like as soon as possible. But the show, like, I'm just gonna recap what I said, but the show is just basically about like helping teens like understand like everything that's going on in like the world and like the newest like topics, because sometimes they may not have the proper like teaching, like parents that teach them that, because sometimes they just, because for me, when I come home from school or something, my parents like ask me like, how's your day, or like they ask me what's wrong or everything like that. But sometimes you can just go home and your parents don't care, so we're just helping them understand like everything that's going on. And
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's great. Okay. And do you want to maybe tell everyone when the show might likely occur?
It will come later this summer, around maybe October, around there. So yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
I'm definitely gonna look into that.
Same. I'm excited for you guys. Those are all the questions.
It looks like you have a lot of potential guests for your show lined up right here. You have like 4 guests already.
Yes,
Yeah.
count me in.
Yay, and then you'll all participate in Composium as well. So Aisha, is that all the questions for the day?
Yes, those are all the questions.
Perfect. Does anybody else have any burning thoughts, feelings, or questions that you want to pose out before we close down the show today?
I know it's been like repeated, but honestly, like I'm so honored to be a part of something like this with such like amazing young people and teenagers. Like this gives me a lot of like hope and reassurance that like our generation like will be the generation to change things,
Yeah.
It's very, very comforting to know that there's other teens that are kind of on the same wavelength as me, and like we got this.
Mm-hmm.
You guys do have it, and that relieves me as we hand the torch down from my generation down to yours. And we're still struggling up here trying to work together. And so there's so many great plans in store. All of you will be a part of it for sure. And Nya-Jolie, do you want to just have any last minute as your guest co-host position?
Yeah, I also want to take the time to like acknowledge real quick this organization. It is actually called kidsave.org, and pretty much like how we had this talk today and we were able to voice our opinions and our thoughts and, you know, connect with each other. This organization helps make sure that kids are in safe environments and that they have safe homes and that they can also voice their own opinions and reach out, and that their environments are safe and clean. And hopefully you guys can check them out. And Tess, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So that's the really good position of guest co-host, intuition abound, because that was the next part, is the charity spotlight. And our charity spotlight today, as Nya-Jolie mentioned, is Kids Save. I've been to their fundraisers for many years in a row, and they are these beautiful galas and silent auctions and live auctions, and they raise so much money for their important mission, which is to create change so that children to be adopted grow up in families and connected to caring adults. So this year, because of where we're at, we're going to have our GWEN Luminaries Award virtually as well, but they're going to do their virtual National Miracles Gala. It's a free 1-hour event on Thursday evening, July 23rd, 2020, and there's a way that you can go to kidsave.org. The URL's down below, and sign up to go and see them on July 23rd. Go and donate to them. Make sure that you share with your communities all the love and support that we have for one another. And most of all, love yourself, because that's a good start to be able to spread love in the world. And from my home to yours, I'm sending a lot of love. And let's reveal to heal our story so we can transform our lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
And now, a Mind Over Matter Minute.